So my my first question comes actually from my 7-year-old daughter,
Mm.
and she says, children do ask these questions, um, because, for example, when I am talking to my kids about, like, if someone passed away, a grandfather, and we talk about heaven, and then my kids, they have soaked up the whole, like, gospel. It's so clear in their mind, but they do ask me questions, and I'm like, oh, I need to study on that. I don't know how to explain about heaven and when he's coming. So, like, kids, I have two questions from my two kids, just to kind of give people, maybe parents, an idea that, kids do have these questions, and maybe it's relevant for us to learn as parents so that we can better answer their questions. So my daughter is asking, in her own child way, she's asking, if Jesus says that he's coming and we don't know when, how can we prepare? So I think she's imagining that, like, we need to get ready to, like, be ready for when he's coming. Do you know how you would answer a child in a simple way?
Yeah, preparing, well, not knowing when he's coming means we always need to be ready, but being ready just means we're following Jesus. So
Mm.
um, it means not acting like he's not coming, but really acting like, wow, someday he's going to come, and we want everything we do in this life to make a difference for forever. We want it to count for forever. And and so we're always looking for his coming and what that means. I mean, I guess that's the way I would
Okay.
like
Yeah.
to think about it.
And my son, he's 6 years old. He says, in other words, he's pretty much saying, what's taking so long for Jesus to come?
Yeah, no, that's a big question, actually. Um, and that one troubles a lot of people. And actually, already in the first century, it was troubling some people. Like in 2 Peter 3, it says that mockers will come saying,
Mm,
and I'm not saying that everybody asked the question as a
right.
mocker. We've all probably asked the question, but
Yeah.
mockers will come saying, "Where's the promise of his coming? Everything's just stayed the same since the beginning of the world." And Peter
Mm,
says, "Well, don't forget the flood." But he goes on to say, "The Lord is not slow concerning his promise, but is patient toward us, giving more people time to repent." And
mhm,
so he's going to have a people from every kingdom and tribe and people and nation. Revelation says, um, Matthew 24:14, when the good news of the kingdom has been preached among all the nations, then the end will come. Or Romans chapter 11, when the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, then the Jewish people will turn to faith in the Messiah. And yeah, and then also, yeah, there's just a lot of passages about that in terms of God's plan. We're going to have lots and lots of brothers and sisters because of the delay.
mhm,
God does know what he's doing,
mhm,
but also um, from a perspective just in the first century, when it says "I'm coming soon," of course, like in the Chronicles of Narnia, Aslan says all times are soon. I call all times soon, but uh, and the day is like 1,000 years. Like again, 2 Peter, quoting I think Psalm 90 or so. But this had been going on for like 8 centuries already. So people were already used to it by the time you get to the New Testament. So, you know,
mhm,
Isaiah, other prophets had been saying that the day of the Lord is at hand.
mhm,
In other words, imminence doesn't mean immediacy. Imminence means always be ready. And by the time you get to the first century, obviously people should understand that because it's been going on for a long time. And so certainly, with already in the Bible, like 8 centuries of preparation, we should understand the same. But they're also, and I know I'm going beyond the 6-year-old answer at this point, but just because it's a question for
yeah.
a lot of us, um, there are also phases in God's work. So the prophets talked about the restoration. the people were, they went off into exile in Babylon. And in terms of coming back, well, that did start happening. Jeremiah talked about a 70 years prophecy. Well, many of them came back, but then Daniel says, wait, this can't be the whole thing. And he said, okay, for this, it's 70 Sabbaths or sabbatical years. So it's like 490 years. Like, oh, and then you get to the New Testament and you find, okay, some things are being fulfilled. Some of the things the prophets talked about are being fulfilled right then. We're still waiting for the second coming. And depending on your view of the millennium, the 1,000-year period in Revelation 20, then there may be yet another phase before the full completion. So God's patience allows some things to be fulfilled now, but then some things we're still waiting on some things.